Yet, he's a prophet without one single miracle, other than they're saying, well, he couldn't read, but now he could read when things were given to him. But, I take issue with that. But we're talking about a man, Muhammad, that was unsuccessful, but he did marry a woman that had some kind of money. He was 25, she was 40. And she believed in him, and she had some money and wanted to help finance him. So at first, when he had this vision, 600 years after Jesus died, he had this vision, and an angel came to him, and at first he thought it was a demon, and he told his wife, and she said, "Oh no, that was God. Get back in there. Get back into that cave." And so she prodded him up there, and then when he had this vision, he began to talk to people, but especially the Jews, they completely rejected him, completely, because they knew that what he was saying to be another prophet was just completely off the wall. And things he was saying that he thought he knew what he was talking about, but he didn't. Part of that was because he had a uncle that had Jewish ties. And so he learned some things from that uncle, but he didn't learn everything. And so anyways, the Jews rejected him. They were totally, the three tribes there, because he really wanted to be validified as a prophet from the Jews, but they said, no, not even close. In fact, they laughed at some of the things he was saying. He used a story that he tried to win their approval, and yet what he didn't realize is it wasn't a true story. For instance, if somebody came to you and said, "I know about America. I know about how Jack and Jill went up the hill, and they're carrying a bucket of water. I know these truths about America." You don't know what you're talking about. That was a rhyme, nursery rhyme, right? So, well, that's what he did to the Jews. He was saying things that he thought, and they knew, you're an idiot. You are not a prophet. And so they rejected him, and that flipped him out. So Muhammad became the leader of a group that was financed by his wife, and it just began to, first thing he did is he attacked the Jews. He killed two of the tribes. One of them got away, but we're talking 500 Jews he put to death. And he began to say, "No, you're going to believe that I'm a prophet, or you're going to die." And that was their role model, Muhammad, their role model. So in Islam, it's cruel. It's very cruel, extremely cruel. And it bleeds over into society in every way. For instance, women, all right? The Quran says that if your wife is misbehaving, beat her. Now, they changed the most recent English version to beat her lightly. How do you beat someone lightly, right? But the truth is the word beat in the Quran is the same word they use to beat, in other places, criminals, or to beat a camel. And so Kathy and I were there, and wasn't long before we met the little girl, Dewey, that got, oh, not a little girl, she's 27, 28, 29, somewhere there, but she got miraculously healed. And anyways, we heard the story about how her and her husband and her brother, well, her husband beat her. And she ended up having to go to the hospital. And so when she got to the hospital, the husband just said, "Well, she ran into a door." Really? You could tell the difference. And but that was, she ran into a door, the police. Yeah, she ran into a door. They just winked. And so Osgood went and beat up the husband. And he was in trouble for that. But, that's the role model. Led by Muhammad, that was a cruel, very cruel man. Not only was he a cruel man, but he was a pervert. He had 13 wives that were nothing more than sex slaves. One of those he stole from his stepson, his adopted son. And, not stepson, adopted son. And so, he's married to this woman. Well, he went to visit, at their house, and he wasn't there, the adopted son, but his wife was there. And, this feeling just overcame Muhammad that he just wanted this woman. And so he prayed about it. And God told him that in the Quran, to you alone belongs this privilege. And so he took her. And the son, their answer to that, when you talk to Muslims about that, and their answer is, well, the husband wasn't taking care of her, so Muhammad took her and was going to take care of her now. Really? Okay? And so, no, he was a pervert. And also, he had a wife that was 6 years old, but he waited to consummate the marriage till she was 9 years old. You know what that means, to consummate the marriage. And so, when you talk to people about this, he had a wife that he slept with that was 9. And, well, you know what their answer is? Well, she was a gift. The father gave this girl to him. Also, that changes the rules, about, perversion. And so he was a pervert. And then somehow to get these young men to follow him and to want to die for him, he wiggled into his message in the Quran that, that there's these maiden women with beautiful eyes who live alongside the Muslims, faithful Muslims, in paradise. And so he began this rumor that, it's probably more of a rumor than reality, but tried to make young men feel like they want to die in battle, or they want to strap a bond on themselves, because instantly you're going to go to that place in paradise where the virgin women are. Perpetually virgins somehow. And they're beautiful maids with beautiful eyes. And so anyways, all that's in there. He's a pervert. Muhammad was a pervert. And then they reverend the Quran, which is the writings that came from Muhammad, not from Muhammad, but from people that heard Muhammad and what he said. So, well, that happened 20 years later after he said it, that they wrote it down. And they tried to use the Bible to validify the Quran. Didn't work because they got names mixed up. They've got stories mixed up. It's just a jumble. It's a mess. I don't think they got hardly anything right in the Bible, or about the Bible, about Jesus, about Abraham, and so on. And anyways, they say, even though the truth is, every fifth sentence is unrecognizable. Okay, that's the percentage that 20% of it is you don't even know what they're talking about, because it's words, it's gibberish that doesn't make sense. What are they trying to say here? They're trying to keep it in context, but it's just words that don't make sense. And they say, oh, no, it can't really be translated, and it's just so beautiful in Arabic, and oh, no, give me a break. It's not. You're just covering yourself. And so the Quran, that's part of the problem. So they got problems. Muhammad being their leader, the Quran being their book, and then Islam as a way of life. They call it the religion of peace. Really? Really? Islam, the religion of peace? Wow. If you're under their rule, there'll be peace. If you're not, there is no peace. They call it a religion of peace. No, that's only if you're in subjection to them and you bow knee to Muhammad. So, and it's just their way of life. Even to this day, the worst thing you can do, like in America, I've used this example before. In America, we have lines that we draw where you can't cross back over. When people cross the line, you can't cross back over. For instance, if a man is caught molesting a young girl, maybe a stepdaughter, he's crossed the line. And nobody will go back on that. No, you're finished. No, you can't. Apology means nothing. You're finished. It's over, right? You crossed the line, all right? And, if in America there's things in our heart that we won't say, but they're in there. For instance, a man grabs a 11-year-old girl and rapes her and kills her, and the father comes on the scene and sees what's going on, and he kills the guy. With his bare hands, he kills the guy and whatever. Well, okay, we won't say he deserved it, but we all think he deserved it. Dude, you had it coming, okay? Yeah, that's you had it coming. And so even if he didn't kill the girl, but the father to be there and just, to catch him molesting his daughter, you had it coming, okay? And he beats the guy and maybe kills him. Well, it would go to jury, but I'd say 90% of Americans would say, you had it coming. You just had it coming. So they would say, he needs to do some time, yeah, but we're not going to put him forever in jail. And I don't consider this murder, right? Anyways, so you cross the line. We've got lines like that. Now, understand, in Islam, by the way, I did take that pill, John, so about an hour ago, I'm hoping it'll help. But in Islam, the worst thing you can do in Islam, this trumps everything. The worst thing you can do is to be born Muslim, which they all are. They put it on your identity, but to convert to Christian. That is the worst possible thing you could do in their culture. The worst. There's nothing beyond that. You could molest a girl, and they've got lines as well, but the worst thing you can do is to cross over from Islam to Christianity, because the way they look at us and what they think we believe and how disgusting it is to them. And so that's why when there's a family member that becomes Christian, they've just shamed the family in such a way. And so that's where you get these mercy killings. They're bringing honor killings, right? They're bringing honor back to the family by killing the sister that became a Christian, because it's so bad what she did. And guys, they'll do time, they'll go to jail for that, but they brought honor back to the family, right? Because of the way they look at it. So this is how they tick. Where did they get that? Muhammad, just ingrained and in the culture. And and then their belief with these problems we're talking about with Islam, their belief in God, a.k.a. Allah. And by the way, it's not another God. I know that people in the fellowship will tell you that. No, they believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and David, and Jesus. Okay, they believe that's the God they're worshiping. Now they're wrong in how they worship, but are the Catholics worshiping a different God? No, same God. They're just screwed up in how they do it, right? They're all messed up about it. And they got idols. They don't even know this God, okay? So, but their God is, the Quran mentions Noah. It mentions all these things. And so anyways, so their belief about God, God is unreachable. He's untouchable. He's unknowable. And far, far from a father. but we call him our Father. And that so bugs them. And God is to be feared. And he can do whatever he wants. But they have no clue that Jesus is the one that connects us with our Father, God. They have no clue about that. Any questions to this point? Yeah.
Is there a reason why they call him Allah?
Just a translation. How do they say it in Spanish? God? Dios. Dios? Yeah. So is Dios a different God? No, just a translation. So that's Allah is just another word for God. But people will say, what's another God? Well, not really. No, there is no other God. They say, well, anyways, we'll just leave that there. But in my studies, and I've read the Quran beginning to end, and no, it's they're talking about the God of the Bible. That's who they're talking about, right? And that's who they're sacrificing their sheep to, the God of the Bible, right? As Abraham did. So God's a noble and touchable and not a father, and he is to be feared. And that's Pastor. Oh, who had a question? Oh, Anthony. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to know because you said that they had to bend the knee to Muhammad. So
I said what?
you said they had to bend the knee to Muhammad. So what was their view on Jesus? How did they
Oh,
view Jesus?
well. Do you want to know what they say, or do you want to know what they do? Yeah, okay. They say that Jesus was a prophet. But the only reason they say that Jesus is a prophet, they don't know anything about him. They don't believe the miracles that he did. And certainly what he said about himself, being the Son of God and the Messiah, and that he'd die and rise again. They don't believe any of that. But they'll say, oh, no, Jesus was a prophet. It's just words. And the reason they say that is because they want you to say Muhammad is a prophet. You know the big call to prayer in the mornings? You know, you hear it, 6 o'clock in the morning or whenever day breaks, you hear that call to prayer 5 times a day. And yet part of that, of what they're saying, the call is, Allah is God and Muhammad is his prophet. That's it. It's in there every day. That's where they say it again and again. Yeah.
I have a question. I remember once when I was teaching over there, and I had a necklace that it wasn't a cross, but it was shaped like. And the people there, they were hysterical. What is this you are wearing? You know, what did it do? So I want to know what is the problem with the cross?
Their problem?
Their problem.
Well, okay, because they look at us as if we idolize the cross. So the one thing they did get is they don't have any idols. They do good in that arena. They have no idols. So they think that we look at the cross and we worship the cross. But to them, Christianity is the Greeks and the Catholics. That's they're surrounded by them, okay? And that's all they know. And the Coptic, Egyptian Christians and all these different, but they're very super religious and they're always carrying around, the stick with this cross on it or something. And and they just know that to have idols is not good. So that's why they're paranoid about even a Christian wearing a cross. Yeah. All right, yeah.
So what's their way to salvation?
What's their way to salvation? Okay, there is a promise that if they die in battle, okay, or for Allah, as he's moving his propaganda and his push forward, well, okay, that's a shoo-in. However, there is no promise of salvation. Allah does what he wants. And they just pray, hoping that they'll get let in. They have no promise, none. No promise. In fact, they're in fear. And that fear, you fear Allah, but that bleeds off into their society. You fear Allah. And so The wife fears now the husband. The kids fear the mom. And everything functions by fear. Your job is held by fear. They're not good to you. It's fear. You're going to lose your job. Or it's fear. Don't go next to that dog. It's going to bite you. It'll eat you. Okay? Everything's fear. Right? They can't just, yeah. And you can't reason with them. They don't understand reason. They only understand who's got the stronger punch. Might is right to them. That's all they understand. So, negotiate, forget about it. Trump, get the mother of all bombs, drop it. Instantly, one bomb. Remember when he was in office last time? It shut down ISIS, the whole thing. And that's because 2 of our special force guys were killed. He says, we're not putting up with this 1 second. And that's all they understand. They have to be put in check. Or they look at any kindness as weakness. That's how they see it. In America, we see kindness as a great, great part of a character, facet of someone's personality. Just kindness, being kind, respectful. But they see that as weakness. And when there's weakness, they're going to roll right over the top of you. That's how they operate. I got so many stories, but I got to go on here. So, their belief in Christianity. They believe that the Bible's just been corrupted by the Catholics, and they actually have the originals hidden away. Okay, that's what they believe. About that we believe, right? And then, of course, there's no sin nature. There's no sin nature in mankind. It's only ignorance and weakness, but it's not a sin nature. The other day, Caitlin and I were coming out of a shop. We were making a stop, and Caitlin's walking out in front of us, 2 years old. He's walking out with a popsicle behind. Now we're behind him, so he's not very smart about this. But there's like not a popsicle, some kind of a thing, candy that he was holding out his back as he's walking out the door, like, whoa, wait a minute here, you know. And so I milked it a little bit to teach him a lesson. But hey, no one had to teach him that. It's in our nature to do what you're not supposed to do, and he was hiding it, so he knew. Yeah. So, anyways, they don't think we have a sin nature. They don't believe that everyone's sinful and whatever. And then we believe that there's 3 gods: Jesus, God, and Mary. That's what they think we believe. And that Jesus was only a prophet to them. And you pay for your own sins. No man can pay for your sins. But what really aggravates them the most, and why they're against us and want to see us just die, is because we know the truth, but we refuse it. Islam is the truth. We know that. Deep inside, we know it's the truth. But we're refusing it. Right? And so, yeah, but, we kind of think that way in some way. I mean, there's times in my life where I've worked with someone, worked with them, and all of a sudden, no, I don't want to follow God, and yet they know it's real. And so in the back of my mind, I say, well, go to hell then. And I kind of write them off. I shouldn't, but I'm being honest. It's like, okay, I'm done with you. If God can be so good to you and do all these, and then now you're going to say, I don't follow God. He's not doing anything for me. Really? All right, well, go to hell. No, I'm not going to cut their head off like Islam. But that's what they believe, is that we know the truth, but we're rejecting it. They honestly believe that. No, you know. But they're refusing it because they want to go the easy way of Jesus. And they fast 30 days a year. Right? Ramadan. Okay. But No, no, you're not really fasting. You're just changing the times you're eating during the day. They gorge themselves before sunup, and as soon as that sun goes down, the cigarette goes back in their mouth and bring that plate of food, and yeah. And they'll sometimes, many times, they'll wake up in the middle of the night and eat their third meal or whatever. But they've just changed the time they're eating. They don't eat during the day, they eat at night, before the sun comes up and goes down, or after it goes down. So don't tell me about, we fast 30 days and you Christians. You know, that's hard to do. No. Okay, so now after all of that, any questions before I take a twist here? Okay, yes.
So a lot of them, we have a lot of Muslims that come through the army sometimes, and a lot of them, I would say probably a good majority of them, handful, they don't fast. It's too hard for them.
Yeah.
Some of them, so because they're in training and stuff, so they won't do it. Some of them will. Some
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
take a MRE and then at night they'll eat it. But some of them they don't fast.
Yeah, they're only trying to make God happy. But they feel that God's smile is downward. It's more of a frown. And so, after a while, they just figure out, I don't think I can make this God happy. Anything that goes bad, they blame it on God. John?
It's interesting. When I was in Texas, I had a Lebanese soldier that I was just working with. And they're kind of like a branch of the Catholics, but they're called the Maronites. And there's a lot of them in Lebanon. And he was like, yeah, we have lots of Christians in Lebanon. And I was like, bro, those ain't Christians. I mean, they believe in Christ, but they're just not. And they don't have a relationship. It's all just religion. And so
Yeah.
their view of Christianity is like they don't know the real thing because there's so many, there's Catholics and Coptics and, the Maronites in that region of the world, and that's what they see as Christianity. And, we know that here that
Right.
I'm sure there's some saved Catholics, but
Yeah.
it's just
We know the real
there's no
thing.
relationship
Right.
there.
But what's funny is that they look at the Greeks and the Catholics as being the true Christians. But what's funny in Islam is we know that Islam is Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. We know them, and so as you kind of put the cluster together, all a little bit different, but there's the same spirit about them all. And so we look at that, and that to us is Islam. That's the ones that are into it. And so, anyways, when you go to Turkey, they had a Ferai, which was their teacher, but she'd insist. She'd say, "Oh no, those aren't the real Muslims. I'm a real Muslim. I'm a real Muslim." Yeah, and well, you never go to the mosque, never, and I'm sure you don't go the 30 days of Ramadan and fasting and so. But that's the way they view it. So, but that's like Christians out on the streets. They'll say they're Christians, but they're not. They might even go to a church, 2-3 times a month on Sunday, but we know they're not because of, they're really enjoying sin, that they're not dealing with it. So we know that. But they have the same thing over there, and they all claim, every one of them claim that they're the true Muslim. Yeah, and so there were some hands. Anybody? Oh, maybe I didn't see the hands. Okay. So,
So you might get to it, but where did Mecca come in?
where did what?
Mecca come in.
Mecca? Okay. Years back, and I forgot what the name of it is, and this is getting down to what they think to be special, but what was it? It's something that fell from the sky. There's a name for it. Anybody remember that? Tim would know. Tim's not here. But there's something, it's like an item, and it fell from the sky in Mecca, right? And so that became the center of, and even though they don't believe in idols, they really feel like this thing was sent from God. And I don't know that they worship it, but the area is a holy area. And one of the things that you have to do if you're going to have your best shot of getting into heaven with God, is there's 5 things you got to do. You got to pray. You got to, and I didn't want to go that way. I'm just going off the top of my head. But there's several things, but you have to make a journey to Mecca. You have to make a journey, and so that's why they all go, they wear white, and they pray and whatever. Yes?
Yes, like growing up, we were surrounded by a lot of Muslim too, but that's like, I think Mecca and Medina are like 2 of their places that before they die, it's called like Hajj. So
Oh, that's it. That's the trip to Mecca.
pilgrim. So that's like, I think in a way, it's kind of like their way before you die to seek salvation with God or like go to heaven.
Yeah,
The journey they have to do
right.
in life one time.
One time they got to get there. Yeah, yeah. So was it? But that's in Mecca, correct? Right. And so Medina is another place. Is that where that thing fell?
Also another place. So those 2 are the main place they usually mention to go.
Okay. Okay. All right.
The confusion is, I don't know if it's the travel is through foot or the travel is through just to travel. So, yeah, that's the definition.
Yeah, they just have to get there somehow.
To get there.
Yeah.
You'll see them all riding in trucks and everything. I mean, some are walking, some are riding in trucks. I mean, they'll ride donkeys. I mean, there's a lot of people moving.
Yep. It's a big thing. Yes.
What's interesting is like when you tell when they're doing their pilgrimage and they go to different places, like to the mosque, and they say, "Hey, I'm doing this pilgrimage." It's like their duty to help those people, to like house them, to give them food and like supplies so they can continue on. It's like,
Oh wow. Yeah.
it's like a way of
Yeah.
helping out. So
Yeah. I could see that in their culture. Okay. So now that we've said that, I want to have if maybe Sean can read some verses for us. Because after all that I said, I want to end it with this. God loves Muslims. He really does. So let's go ahead and read some verses in the Bible. And Sean, you want to help us here, just this story? Go ahead.
Sarah turned to Abraham and demanded, "Get rid of that slave woman and her son. He is not going to share the inheritance with my son, Isaac. I won't have it." This upset Abraham very much because Ishmael was his son.
Okay, so this is Abraham and Sarah, right? That's the fathers of our faith in the Jewish religion and Christianity. But, well, what happened was God said, "I'm going to give you a child." And a promised child, well, they're trying and trying. It's not happening. And so Sarah says, "Well, maybe my handmaid can bear you a child, and that'll be our son." And so Abraham went ahead and did that, and Ishmael was born. Well, Ishmael began to grow up, and it wasn't quite so bad. I mean, there was some rift, but when the real promised child was born, Isaac, from Sarah in her old age, Abraham in his old age, this miracle child, well, all of a sudden Sarah looks at Ishmael and says, "Get that kid out of here. He's not going to share in the inheritance with us." All right, so read on.
But God told Abraham, "Do not be upset over the boy and your servant. Do whatever Sarah tells you, for Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted. But I will also make a nation of the descendants of Hagar's son, because he is your son too."
So Ishmael was going to become a nation and a people. Okay, go on.
So Abraham got up early the next morning, prepared food in a container of water, and strapped them on Hagar's shoulders. Then he sent her away with their son, and she wandered aimlessly in the wilderness. When the water was gone, she put the boy in the shade of a bush. Then she went and sat down by herself about 100 yards away. "I don't want to watch the boy die," she said, as she burst into tears. But God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven, "Hagar, what's wrong? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Go to him and comfort him, for I will make a great nation from his descendants." Then God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw a well full of water. She quickly filled her water container and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy as he grew up in the wilderness.
Wow, interesting story. So God called my wife and I in 2004 to go to the nation of Turkey. And we had a great church in San Diego, California, a great city. great people, a rocking church today. And yet God made it clear that we needed to go to Turkey. And at first, I didn't even know that Turkey was a Muslim nation. I really didn't. And my whole attitude towards Muslims, if I can be honest, back then, nuke them all. They're crazy. They're crazy. So this is 2004, and you all know what happened on 9/11, just a few years prior. And they're rejoicing over the dead bodies of Americans. And so I was, and they're cutting Christians' heads off. And I mean, it's just, they're crazy folks. So to me, my whole attitude was just nuke them. But I was reading my Bible one day and I read this passage. And God whispered to me, now this is after we were announced to go to Turkey, and yet God whispered to me, I still hear their cry. I care about them. And my whole attitude just changed, completely changed. He doesn't want them to perish either. He doesn't want to. He absolutely loves them. So there was some emphasis put on Ishmael and this nation, and out of that came all the Arabs, right? That's the problem over there is that the Arabs think, no, we're the promised child, and yet God made it clear, no, Isaac's the promised child. The land's given to him, right? They, no, we're the ones. And so they're upset that the Jews have the dominion. So, and then there's demonic strategy at work, where when we're on an outreach, at least for me, not so much today as it was in the past, but when we're handing out flyers and witnessing to people about Jesus, we tend to pass up covered women and people that we feel are Islamic. We just walk past them. It's just, they're so hard to outreach to. And so I'm going to have to get into that a little bit more next week. But I can say this, now that we've lived among them. And by the way, what nation did you live in?
The UAE.
Where?
United Arab Emirates.
Okay, got it. All right. And so they do have a very tender heart toward God and toward sin. They really do, for the most part. And we discovered there's 70 million Muslims in Turkey. Well, 68 million of those Muslims are really good people. It's the 2 million radicals that ruin it for everybody. But 68 million, they're actually very, very good people. Did you discover that? Yes. Very pleasant, enjoyable, kind, and they're very good people, but it's how they're ingrained. So let me tie it up and I'll have to let you go for your donut here. And that's a man got saved called Kurt. I'm still in contact with him. He's one of our translators that had gotten saved, and but now he lives up in Connecticut. He got asylum. And part of that was because he was translating for us, and we have video of him translating in a Christian church. Well, they'll kill him over there if they discover that. And so, he did get asylum, and it took him 5 years to get his wife out as well. But, when Halal was over there, his wife, Kurt and Halal, she loved us. She said, I love Rick and Kathy, and I love when they come over for dinner, and we'll go visit them, and you can go to the church, and we could be good friends with them. And she's just a precious, precious woman. But she told him, but if you tell me you're Christian, I'll immediately divorce you. Because of the culture. So, to talk to her about Christianity, I'm asking her to sleep with my 5 best friends. I'm asking her to do something so wicked, so wrong, to ask her to become a Christian, to lead her and to become a Christian. So that's how they grow up. It's in their culture. It's embedded in their culture. And it's really rare when there's a kind of a rogue kind of person that just stiff arms it and resist it because there's jobs at stake. You lose your family. There's so much, to lose. So it's very difficult. But Halal's heart was very tender toward God. She just didn't know anything about it. Now that she's been in America, she's a complete different person, wide open to Jesus. All that hovering and that attitude, and you have to come out from under that. It's really, really hard. It's like being a drug addict in a certain neighborhood, and you know what? For you to make it, you might just have to get out of that neighborhood, which is many times the case. So it's kind of like that. But what? We're going to pick it up because there's a lot more here. But this is going to be a good study. Praise God. Yeah. Okay.
What I was going to say is it's not even just their culture, it's their identity. In America, we have a choice. What religion are you? But for them, when they're born, it's put on their birth certificate. So you're asking them to change their whole identity as a person. So we had a couple that we had met. She was one of my doctors. Her husband had gotten saved, and their two sons, they were able to get them into San Diego. And so anyway, when the dad was trying to get out of Turkey, he went to the police department and said, I want Muslim removed from my identity card. And it was almost impossible. They could not believe, why would you ever do that? You're asking me to now become somebody I'm not. And so, or that's what you're asking. It's who they are.
Yeah, so I am not.
There by choice.
Right. I am not American anymore. I am not. Even though I grew up here and live here. I mean, that would be, it's like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, because it's part of our identity here too. But Muslim is. And for the Jews, it's kind of the same. Their land and their God and their religion, it's all one and the same. You cannot separate any of those. Their land, their God, and their beliefs. They're all, it cannot be broken.
Apparently, some trees blew down, and a lot of the roads for us coming up from were closed.
No kidding.